Hi there, this is a video for Who fans and Pete Townshend fans in particular, as we're going to take a look at his solo discography in the form of mostly CDs. So Pete's solo career really begins with a collaborative effort, the first of a series of tribute albums dedicated to Pete Townshend's spiritual master, Meher Baba. Happy Birthday features Townshend on several songs not known to The Who's catalog, as well as the demo version of the Who song, The Seeker. This was followed up in 1972 with I Am, which featured Townshend's demo for Baba O'Reilly, as well as his setting of Pavardagar, which is Meher Baba's prayer. Later in 1972, Pete released what would be his first proper solo album, Who Came First. This featured songs from both Happy Birthday and I Am, as well as demo versions of Who songs from the failed Lifehouse project, in addition to some others. The CD version of this album was first released in the early 90s and contained 6 bonus tracks. It was again released in 2006 with those bonus tracks in addition to 3 others. In 1976, the third and final Meher Baba album was released. This featured Townshend originals His Hands, the really outstanding song Sleeping Dog, and Lantern Cabin. In 1977, Pete Townshend released Rough Mix, which he collaborated on with Ronnie Lane, formerly of the Small Faces and Faces. This CD was originally released on the ATCO label, and it features songs such as My Baby Gives It Away, Keep Me Turning, Misunderstood, The Orchestrated, Street in the City, Hard to Hang On To, and Till the Rivers All Run Dry. There were some additional bonus tracks included on the 2006 remaster. Now we move on to a real high point in Pete Townshend's career with 1980's Empty Glass. This featured the hit single Let My Love Open the Door, and also Rough Boys and Little Is Enough, which got a lot of airplay, but the album on a whole is fantastic from start to finish. Townshend took a little bit of a different direction on 1982's All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. He made some promotional videos, he had a lot of airplay on MTV with several of the songs, but most definitely the high point on this album is the song Slit Skirts. Excellent. Pete Townshend is very well known for the high caliber of demos he makes in his home studios. In 1983, he released an album called Scoop, which featured demos of very famous Who songs, as well as unreleased material that he had in his archives. In 1985, Pete Townshend released the concept album, White City. Dave Gilmour played guitar on this album. The opening track, Give Blood, is really excellent. Another highlight of this album is the song Face the Face, which The Who actually performed while they're on tour in 1989. In 1986, Pete Townshend releases a live album, Deep End Live. This was recorded at a couple of performances that Pete was doing with a group he put together called Deep End. There's some excellent tracks on here. Highlights for me would be After the Fire, which was a song he had recently written for Roger Daltrey that was featured on his Under a Raging Moon album. Also, Save It for Later is a cover of the English Beat song, outstandingly played by Pete. There's a couple of Who songs on there, Pinball Wizard, I'm One, Behind Blue Eyes. It's an excellent album. I really like this tightly edited version of the album, which really seems to have become a core album in his catalog. In 1987, Pete released another set of demo and unreleased recordings from his archives called Another Scoop. In 1989, Townshend released his musical adaptation of the Ted Hughes novel, The Iron Man. On CD, this was the first to be featured on Atlantic Records in the US, Virgin in the UK, I believe. And notable about this album was that The Who reunited for 2 songs, Dig and Fire. There are also a couple of highlights on here from Townshend, including I Won't Run Anymore, and most well known, the song A Friend is a Friend. In 1993, Townshend released his album Psychoderelict. It was a concept album in the form of sort of a radio play. There was dialogue with actors in between the songs and in some cases within the songs. This was not well received, so there is also a music-only version of this album. It's really an underrated album with some excellent songs, including English Boy, Now and Then, I Am Afraid, Predictable, and Fake It. Sadly, Psychoderelict stands as Townshend's final studio album of all original material to this day. While I'm mostly focusing on albums, I will take a moment to point out this CD single, which was included with a hardcover book that was about the Broadway musical The Who's Tommy. Pete Townshend wrote this song specifically for that show to flush out the parent characters. As far as I know, that out-of-print book is the only place to get that Pete Townshend demo. This is another rare, out-of-print Pete Townshend item. This is actually a CDI, which was made for an interactive multimedia CD player, which never really took off. However, the disc can be played on a standard CD player. There are 9 tracks from the Brooklyn Academy of Music show that Pete did that was broadcast on pay-per-view. In 1996, the first of many compilation albums was released. This one is most notable for containing the previously unreleased track Uneasy Street, which was a Psychoderelict outtake, and Let My Love Open the Door, the Ecola mix, which was on some television shows and in some soundtracks. It's basically a slow electronic ballad version of the song. This is the last CD released on the Atlantic label. In 1999, Townshend released this live album. The royalties benefited the Maryville Academy. It was recorded at the House of Blues in Chicago. There are a couple of interesting songs on the first disc, and interestingly, a second disc features a couple of songs with vocals from Eddie Vedder. By the year 2000, Pete Townshend was releasing material on his own record label, Eel Pie. He released a super deluxe 6 CD box set called the Lifehouse Chronicles, and also a single disc called Elements, which sampled the Lifehouse Chronicles and also included an exclusive track, New Song. It was a demo of the opening track of Who Are You? If I recall correctly, the Lifehouse Elements disc was pretty available in the stores. However, the box set was only available on Pete's website or at the Who concerts that were taking place at that time. The box set is most definitely out of print, as I would assume the single disc is as well. These were the first in a live series offered exclusively through Pete's website, eelpie.com. Unfortunately, they too are now long out of print. Here are 2 more exclusive Eel Pie releases. The Jai Baba was a reduction of a box set that was released celebrating the Meher Baba albums. All of the tracks from all of the artists included, from Happy Birthday, I Am, and With Love, are included on the 2-disc Jai Baba set. And O Pavardagaar features the studio version of that song, a live version from India, and a curious German language version. As with the previous couple of releases, these are unfortunately out of print as well. This is a really excellent one-off release from Rhino Records of found audio of Pete Townshend performing a couple of concerts with a guy named Raphael Rudd, who was a fellow Meher Baba follower as well as a fine musician in his own right. The greatest thing about this release are the acoustic versions of a couple songs that had not yet surfaced at that time on his solo albums. So you get to hear very early incarnations of Let My Love Open the Door and A Little Is Enough, as well as some outstanding acoustic versions of things like Drown, The Seeker. There's an interesting version of a Townshend song called The Ferryman. So it's really worthwhile release to check out. Here are a couple more live shows that were exclusively offered through Eelpie. This is the third incarnation of the Scoop series that was released in 2001 through Eelpie. It has subsequently been released on other labels and is still available today. This is a compilation collection that is made up from songs from all three of the Scoop albums. It was readily available in the stores and not just sold exclusively through Eelpie, although it is on the Eelpie label. Here is another Eelpie Live exclusive. This is the almost full concert that was featured on the CDI that I showed earlier. Unfortunately, it cuts out some really great versions of songs like Save It for Later and North Country Girl. And here is the final Eelpie Live exclusive. This is an expanded version of Deep End Live. Unfortunately, I don't enjoy it as much as I do the more concise Deep End Live. So this is the first release on Hippo Records through UME, which is Pete's current record label. And it's a 2-disc set, comprehensive. It was originally released as Anthology in the UK, and shortly thereafter was re-released as Gold in the US with the same content. In 2007, Hippo Records released this single-disc definitive collection. It's another hits collection. However, this was preceded by Hippo Records' remastering campaign, which saw all of Townshend's studio albums, plus the 3 Scoop albums and Deep End Live, remastered. Most of them included bonus tracks except for the Scoop albums. All 11 of those remastered discs were released in 2006. In 2015, Truancy, the very best of Pete Townshend, yet another hits album, was released. This one is notable because it contains new material, 2 new songs, Guantanamo and How Can I Help You. This is still on UME, however the Hippo label has been dropped. Townshend revisited Quadrophenia for his 2015 release, Classic Quadrophenia. This is basically a classical version of Quadrophenia with an orchestra and a classically trained singer in the lead role. It's an interesting listen, it's cool. However, when I most often want to reach for Quadrophenia, I'm going for the Who's 1973 original. This would be much better as a performance piece to experience live, and I certainly understand why Townshend did it. It's just not something I listen to that frequently. And finally, 2016 saw the release of Pete Townshend's Deep End, Face the Face. This is a January 1986 performance. If you have the Brixton Academy 85 concert CDs or Deep End Live, there is some redundancy here. However, it's an interesting listen, and there is a DVD included, which makes it worth it. Currently, there is a reissue campaign underway through UME, yet another reissue campaign, and more excitingly, we may see a new Scoop compilation by the end of 2017. So there you have it. That is Pete Townshend's solo catalog. Hope you enjoyed it.
It was most enjoyable, as we say in England.